Hello and welcome for the part 3 of Wargame Polish AirLand Battle Wargame deck. There's a lot of words to pronounce. Last part ended abruptly again, for which I apologize because I ran again out of the disk space even though I tried to clean and give it some space. I had an intention to wrap up everything in the second part, which makes for 1 hour already. And it seems we're up for part 3, which if you enjoyed, it's good, I believe, because the more information the better. So for your viewing pleasure, the strange proportion I was using is 16 by 10 actually, which is my native resolution, which is for when you use PC for technical stuff. 16 by 10 is the king. 16 by 9 is video watching standard, which is, you could say, YouTube. So right now I'm running the game in window at the 69, so probably the resolution is HD, but it should give you a better viewing experience. So let's get back quickly where we left off at the Polish deck. I think there was some fast patch while I was off. It was like 3 hours. Still have done last part, and as you can see, it's either a bug or a patch was there. The activation points has been reduced. Here's my old decks. I've spent like 44 points out of 44 back yesterday, and after the patch they seem to reduce the activation points budget, so it kind of make my guide a little bit obsolete. I will have to tweak it on the go. So keep in mind that this change has just been introduced. For my old decks, it seems I can keep the overflow units for the time being, but I believe the new ones will be limited, right? So let's get back in where we stopped last time. I was getting on to discuss the niebieskie berety, which is blue berets, and how awesome they are. They are very awesome. If you actually notice on the paratroopers, spadochroniarze, they have an assault unit. So the fact that their weapon, actually there is a label right now, which wasn't before the patch. The weapon has now a label of CQC, close quarter combat. Yes, very nice. Which means they don't have to be static to shoot it. The range just seems to stay the same. Oh, and they actually gain accuracy. They were 7 in the part 2 of the video. So here we go. There's again for you making fast changes before the release. It's only 10 days now for the release, so this is actually, and their accuracy actually got up. This is very interesting. Let's go back for the blue berets. So we decided these guys are the airlifted assault troops that shoot, run and gun, right? Now we've got 2 functions. One troop for defense and one for normal ground assault to fill in. And watching on the blue berets, you can see they've got oh my, the blue berets actually before they had 1000 meter weapon. Now they have RPK as well as the paratroopers, spadochroniarze, which 3 hours ago was not the case. They had a 1000 meter. They were my unit of choice for defense because there's a lot of them. They have plenty of rockets, 8 RPG rockets, and they had the 1000 meter guns. Well, they don't now, but still, because there's so many of them and they have so much ammo, I'll pick them for the defensive function. And for the defensive function, what is interesting, when you want to defend a city square, you want to get there by a vehicle, unload, and the question is, what do you do with the vehicle? The infantry gets the cover bonus, which means they are invisible in a higher range, they are hidden, but the vehicle does not. The vehicle only get in like trenches or in wood. So if you ride there in a topaz and you unload them, they get to hide in the buildings, but the vehicle does not, and he likes draws attention and gives out that there might be an ambush there, so you have to move the vehicle out of the way to hide it somewhere. And for this reason, the static defense troops should use cheap disposable vehicles that they only use them to get somewhere, and then you can, you know, write them off somewhere else. So I originally was using the star, which is about one credit for a track, which because I just wrote there and loaded them on the desired square and wrote back. But what I found was lacking is the very low speed, 110 on normal road, which is okay, but only 50 off-road. So what makes it, if I've conquered with my assault forces, a city, I wanted to secure it with my defensive forces before I move my offensive forces head on. And by the time those trucks arrived there, it really was a long time. It was hindering me. So I wanted a faster solution, even for paying more. And as you can see, the transportation is very limited for Blue Berets. And we don't have a Scot. We have only got those Blue Berets. Blue is from the sea. They are the, you can say, Marines, right? In the USMC variant. United States Marine Corps. So we can cross water with those, but as I told, crossing water is not an issue. So for this purpose, and you check those vehicles, the Topaz and the Topaz 2, the Topaz actually, all their variants also have 110 kilometers on the road, and only slightly, but because it's 60 instead of 50 kilometers per hour off-road. So for the increase on cost, the increase in speed is not significant, but the first variant is actually 130 kilometers, which is 20 more, and you can read it 20 more from 110 to 150. It's not much, 130, but I would say it's still, on a longer road, it's still like a 10 seconds difference, and it really can make a difference. So, and it's only 4 credits more, and it's armored, and it's got a gun. So 4 credit, you got speed, some armor which protects some splash, and a gun, which I think this is the option to go for static defense guys, and obviously the best one. And because they have to be the veterans, because especially those defensive guys will get bombed, will get shot from afar, they will get suppressed, so they really need the ability to hold their wits and fight back. So we've got 24 of those paratroopers, 24 of those marines, and we're pretty good. The last major infantry company we're missing is the ground assault, right? We've got air assault, ground defense, now ground assault. Let's move down below. PPK Faggot. Okay, this one is 2-man, very small, with exceptional stealth, ATGM, right? We've been looking at light infantry, which had a very low 1600 meters and only 8 rockets, and these guys got 6 rockets, which is less, but 2400 range. This is very nice. There's only 2 of them though, and you could say this is a pretty good specialized unit. Okay, the rockets got pretty range, but the downsides, they've got 8 accuracy, which is decent, but only 10 AP power. If the enemy is rolling with heavy armor solution against you, you won't really hurt him much. He will move into a range, you will shot your rocket, it's 30 per minute, which will make probably 2 rockets or 3 before he notices that you're shooting a rocket and back off, right? But because they only do 10 AP power, and those, say, Abrams tanks from US have like 17 armor, you'll only slightly damage them if you even manage to hit them. So you could take a tremendous amount of rockets to shoot, and it's a deterrent, but only for light vehicles. So it's a specialized unit that can only fight off light vehicles. Very specialized. I don't like it. It's cheap, but it's very specialized. Remember that from all the game resources, credits, activation points, slots, there are some resources, but also there are player resources, like you have your action per minute. You can manage only so much troops at one time. There is your attention spam. You cannot be everywhere at the same time. And when you've got like a bazillion of those worthless units, that units should do the work for you. You should be doing the work for your units, right? So those units are pretty crap, and they require a lot of attention on your part, a lot of great positioning. It's not worth it. That's not worth it. Besides, the strength is 2, which means everything, absolutely every unit that does have any kind of a gun that shoots rocks will defeat them. So very fragile, very cheap, but supremely situational and pretty weak. If the rocket got more AP power, then maybe, but in this state, no. Let's move on. We've got the Scudian, Promet, and Chopper, which is the fast land, slow land, and air ways. Nothing specific, so let's skip those guys. We have the engineers, which we've discussed in a previous video. And then we've got piechota przeciwlotnicza strzała. Basically, all the Eastern Bloc countries were collaborating on crucial technical inventions, and one of them was Strela, which is a Russian for an arrow, which is in Polish is, because we are in the same linguistic group as the Russians and the other guys, Strzała, Strela, the arrow, which is a air-to-ground rocket. And it was a quiet invention at the time, very effective, it requires a very little operation. Every, let's say, peasant could operate it, right? Just aim and shoot, and everything happens. It was quite inaccurate, but at the time it was a Kalashnikov of air-to-ground rockets. It is what is a little curious thing. The collapsing Soviet economy didn't know what to do with all those military invasions. They had an embargo on exporting, or were just obsolete by the time the USS dissolved. So right now in Poland, parts of the targeting system of this rocket are used in the traffic radars that police officers do to check if you are overspeeding, which is more funny as the flaws of the targeting computer of Strela carried over to the hand radar the police is using, and there are many reports of say a truck driver overspeeding, say 150 kilometers showing on the radar. He's getting a ticket, while the technical capability of his truck is, let's say, 100 meters, because the radar catches the speed, say, of the rim of the wheel instead of the vehicle itself, because it was designed to track fast-moving aircraft, not ground vehicles. I mean cars. It's just a side note, right? Well, do we want it? It depends if we have other more efficient solutions. If we take a quick look at the support, and we see we have a QB with pretty good accuracy, right? Or a romb with pretty good more range, then we see that this infantry doesn't really do anything more than those vehicles, which are pretty also cheap. So no, for this reason that we have better options to do this, because you have to ride somewhere with those guys, you have to unload them, they have to aim. No, it's too much micromanagement. You just want a vehicle who shoots the rockets itself, right? So for this reason, Strela, Polish strzała, goes away. Sorry guys. But what is super important about this, guys, you see, there's a third kind. We've got this usual Scud transport, we've got the marine transport, right? And then we've got the Russian BWP, bojowy in Polish. I mean, it's BRD in Russian, in English Russian at least. It's a BWP, which is bojowy wóz piechoty, which it's just for English as infantry fighting vehicle, right? Infantry troop transport, whatever your nomenclature is in your country, and it is a pretty good Russian design. So if it was unique to those guys, I would consider buying them, because they are only 5, so you pay an overhead for the useless infantry of 5, and then you get a pretty cool infantry truck. But you can see those guys can have it too. So I'm gonna not get it on those guys and instead look at the piechota zmech, which is piechota zmechanizowana, which is mechanized infantry, right? Infantry moving with by the means of mechanized transport, right? Which is not so obvious because remember it's years from 70 to 85 and not so long ago horses were used in armies, not for combat obviously, as some Hitler propaganda would impose that Polish cavalry was charging German tanks with horses and sabers in their hand, which they're not. Horses were used for transport of infantry, which means you get on a horse, you rode to the front, you dismount it, and then you were fighting by foot. Also, horses were used to carry cannons, well, because of the rough terrain, of how many horses there still were, and of how not enough, petrol supply or means of mechanized transport there were. But this was, we are talking the World War II era. Right now we have enough fuel, and the Russian fuel, unfortunately we don't have any sources in our land except maybe coal for this kind of energy. So we've got our favorite Scot, we've got Topaz, which we dislike, and we've got BWP, BWP, Polish, BWP. Okay, so we've got version 1, version 2, and version 3. Okay, let's look at the version 1. 2 front armor, 1 everyone else, average mobility, but a long range, good cannon. Can you see this? It's like an amazing gun. It has only 2 accuracy, which is totally inaccurate, but AP power 12, which means if you get a lucky roll on something, you're gonna do a pretty much damage for this 15 credit vehicle, and 2 HE power, which means you can suppress the infantry you shoot at, and which is important because when you get a pure AP, this means this cannon being loaded with 2 kinds of shell, which is simplified in this game that one shot has both effects, right? Because, for example, a tank can have a very good accurate but AP armor piercing round that won't do much good against the infantry. That's why the machine guns or tanks are used for. But this gun is really good. So if you amass those vehicles, even though they are inaccurate, they can put some effective fire. Let me have a slip of a tea for my throat. Much better. Now this is the 15 credits version. The 35 see the step increase in the price. It's like 130% more you pay. You get not more armor, not more, slightly more, 5 km more off-road speed, but you get less ranger cannon, which you can also shoot your helicopters, which I find obsolete, but the rocket. You get a pretty decent rocket. This is what you're basically paying for here. This is a standard weak rocket, and this one is 260 meters range, accuracy 9, AP power 18. This makes you able to engage basically heavy high tier tanks with your armored transport. Amazing. And even a better version of 40, which costs 40, well, as you can see, it's not developed yet, it's just a slight cosmetic. You're just basically paying 5 credits more to have this different paint job done, not a different style. So I think it's a work in progress here. So the question is, what do you want? These guys we now have air assault units, we have air defense units, and those ones go air assault unit. And obviously the first thing I went was with the BWP, and I was quite happy with it because 110 off-road speed is the same as with tanks, and 60 is basically the same as with tanks, so I could have this huge column at the same speed of tanks and troop transport to move together. But what came to my conclusion that, well, start-wise, you really get a lot of good stuff here compared to the, let's say, Scott. So BWP costs 15, Scott costs 20, right? And BWP got 2 front armor, Scott got 1 armor. BWP got 5 rockets, Scott got 4 rockets. BWP got a 1800 range all-around gun. Scott got Scott got a machine gun on a low range. So, and it's more expensive by 5 credits. You could say it's a no-brainer to go with BWP, which I did for some time, but then realized that the function that I want to have those units is the speed, and speed beats it all. It's the most important stat you can really have on an assault infantry vehicle. Say you have a town, right, and there is infantry in the town, and around the town there are some enemy tanks and rocket artillery, whatnot, and you assault his position. And I move up as my front line with my very inexpensive 20 credit tanks to catch the enemy rockets, enemy fire, and behind them I want my more fragile units to proceed only when the tanks just breach the enemy lines, right, when the fight went almost on the bayonets. And for this reason the BWP is a pretty slow vehicle, right? It's good on paper, but still it's got very light armor. It's better than with every other spec instead of speed. But for this purpose of land assault troop, the speed is everything. You cannot say anything about the speed. So you get 95 off-road, and when there is a battle you're not staying in a road, right? Only the off-road speed counts. 95 compared to let me show you again, 60, which is over 50% more. That is why Scott beats it. It's half by half faster. And sure, it's got 1 rocket lance, it's got worse main cannon, it got 1 less armor, but it's faster. So it's really, and it's 5 credits more expensive, but speed is everything. When my cheap tanks breach the enemy line, I want to ride in fast with my troop transport, unload the infantry, so the infantry can use RPGs at the very close range to enemy tanks, or enter the city and fight the infantry block by block. And for this reason, as came to me in practice, while on paper the PvP is better, in practice speed is worth more, because if you are faster you're gonna lose less of them, right? Oh, I'm getting a strange lag here, I don't know why. Okay, so I'm gonna go and see how many of them you get. You only get 8 of the veteran rank of those guys, but those guys assault the infantry, which is the ones who will die the most, right, out of the other. You get 12 of veterans of them, which makes for a total of 36. That's right, a 36 infantry guys. Amazing, those guys are amazing. 30 credits, very fast, very well, fragile, but very all around. I recommend those guys. Okay, so that's it from the infantry. As you can see, we're slowly moving downwards. Okay, let's go further on with support, right? Okay, so what do we want? We want anti-air. We can be from the anti-air units. We have some artillery here. We've got rocket artillery, more anti-air, and more anti-air. So let's go with the anti-air, right? We need anti-air. It's the ground to air rockets. They are very good. We got Strzała, an improvement of Strzała, and a QB, okay, Russian. Strzała, Romp, Kub. Then we've got Hibernate, an armored truck, and a Hibernate modernized. It is a prototype. It's a Polish exclusive, one of very few. You can see the the ingenuity of the design. They added a rocket to this. Okay, so and then we can choose from the more, I could say, properly designed vehicles. Also very inexpensive ones. So which one is the best? Okay, see, for me, in air to ground, range is king. Like in air, like land assault vehicle transport, speed is king. In air to ground to air, range is king, because if a bomber is coming towards you, if you shoot from far away, you can intercept him with a rocket and destroy and deny him a bombing run. Otherwise, trading units, he trades his airplane for whatever you bombed and kill. And this also means you can cover much more range with your rocket units. And for this reason, if you can see, is 200, 224, 300, 2300 on rocket, even lower on the machine gun. Well, rockets are better for airplanes, and machine guns are better for, well, are supplementary to the choppers if they decide to head on and kill you. But QB, really, accuracy not that great. It's only 7 compared to 10. But because it's really a best air deterrent, because if guys see those huge rockets, one shot, one kill, and you can have 6 of them, and then you're gonna have 12 of them. I think really it makes everything obsolete. They have a downside, obviously. They have huge range, which makes it the best air to air, ground to air defense. Only 3 rockets. The Russian original version, or the modern version, has 4 rockets. So you're really gonna run fast out of ammo. So when the opponent is going for air, you pull those guys out, and you get those supply choppers, right? Because you will need to resupply those cubes. This was this because they are very slow. You can see 45 in ground. Oh, it's not. This is the one. Yeah, it's also the 45. So, and I advise you how to place them. And best is to place 2 of them. They are only 45 credits, so full air defense will cost you 90. And what is good, because if the enemy has countermeasures on his making a turn, the first rocket will be disposed of, and the second will most likely hit. So don't place them very close by to each other, because it's like, even if you are going to hit, you're gonna waste 2 rockets on one easy kill. So place them in a distance from each other, so one bombing run won't get you, and you'll have a better chance of utilizing your ammo, which is 1 rocket, 1 kill, or at least making hard work for those electronic measurements, such as electronic, the electronic fighting capabilities, like the flares that distract the rockets. So those QBs. Now the thing is artillery, and artillery can be useful, but which comes from the further investigation of the game. I don't use it. This is the goździk. It's a kind of a flower. I don't know the Latin or English name for this flower. It's goździk. It's a pretty good. It's very cool, because it shoots 4 shots in a burst rate, and then has a long reload, and it's pretty accurate. You can see it's got 9 accuracy of this Pivonia. It previously, I believe, it's got like 1 round per minute. It had like 12 accuracy, but now after some kind of patch, it's got 5, which makes it bad. But artillery was good if you had no other tools at your disposal. But since you get airplanes, and specifically napalm airplanes, which I think only the Polish version for the packed side has napalm, and a pretty good amount of pretty good napalm airplanes. For this reason, for which I investigate further when we'll be talking airplanes, I think artillery is obsolete for Polish, because you can just blow up stuff from the air, which is faster, funnier, and looks cooler. So for support, it's only QB. Now I believe we're running out of disk space again, so I cut it now, and I believe part 4 will be the final part, because we've covered the most of the stuff already. So I invite you for the part 4. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.